And welcome to Bridge Studios. This feels like a special kind of church today. We have Calvin Arsenia joining us. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you've been in the studio before, but we've never done the proper Calvin experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what today is all about.
For sure.
Of course, you have so much going on that it's kind of insane. Cantaloupe is still going strong. You have the new collaborative EP with Quixotic Goddess. Mm-hmm. You're going to be part of Briarfest, headlining Bites of Briarfest Friday, June 21st. You can get more information on that at briarfestkc.com. But here you are, and today this feels like as special as anything. We're going to get a lot of music today, so why don't we start with a song?
Okay, sounds good. I used to think love was a solution.
What's wrong? If you got a problem, then a problem's got a problem till it's gone.
Convinced there was ever a cure all.
I know you know. You need the poison for the antidote.
With it around.
Don't wait around.
In perpetual slow motion.
One step at a time, you can climb that mountain high.
Planned obsolescence. Already back to patching the seams. It ain't what it seems to be.
True.
Over and over and over and over again, I fall too hard.
Eventually will fall apart.
Over and over and over and over again, I fall apart. But I'm gonna be okay, whether you're in or out. The headlights look the same, going in or out. I found my new vice, and it's filling me up like an ashtray. And I took every single mirror down, 'cause I don't want to see. Malnutrition,
Gotta eat something.
seeping from beneath this paper towel.
Tell me what you see in the ink blot.
It's too much to clean up. So I open the window and pretend I'm picking roses in Versailles. The headlights look the same, going in or out. And I'm gonna be okay, whether you're in or out.
Give it to me, ribbit, exhibit B. I flip through 6 degrees of separation, that's them to me. Entropy, I've been dreaming, plus I've been holding on to patterns. Better use your words first. This is a verse for the birds, yeah. AM to PM, waiting on him to hit him in the DMs. Rock. I hear that bell, got a Pavlov dog like Rin Tin Tin. Rock, 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 rock. Puppy love gotcha, Kagome Inuyasha. Yeah, but if you only knew, those headlights leave you dead like.
almost seems like a shame to talk after that. That was quite lovely. Calvin Arsenia in our studios today. You know, I was going to just talk to you for a second about, like 10 years ago, you were a guy with a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, you know, like everybody sort of looks at the harp, right? And I kind of wondered how you felt about, like, if that was just sort of like the catalyst to you becoming who you are.
Mm.
That was always there, but it needed that other agent to unleash it.
Yeah, I mean, the harp is an incredibly magical instrument, and it's there's no wonder why so many people associate it with heaven and spiritual things. And I think I did have a desire and dream to put on more immersive performances before I started playing the harp, but it definitely gave me a lot of permission that as a harpist that you could do things that maybe were more performative or more elegant or oddly opulent, and get away with it rather than just an acoustic guitar.
Well,
I think it suits the instrument, is what I mean to say.
Well, you have been performing one way or another for basically your entire life.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that maybe you were performing before a time when you can remember it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I was singing before I really could talk, and I remember growing up as a early childhood in Orlando, Florida, or at least a suburb there, and writing songs about everything and spending way too much time just hanging out in the bathroom because the acoustics were good in there, and singing and writing songs and about anything and everything. And yeah, that was kind of my first introduction into communication into the world. And so, but I didn't really know as a child that everyone didn't just sing all the time. And it was a lot of awkward conversations with peers that had to tell me that wasn't normal.
Well, yeah, you sang when you were shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You sang in school.
Throughout the hallways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, I thought really that your training as a performer was kind of perfect because you've been quoted as saying that your earliest songs were about mud and bugs and flowers. But you chose a captive audience. Your baby brother, he couldn't get up and walk away. Right. He couldn't walk yet, you know?
Yep.
So, good training.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, the thing that maybe surprised me as much as anything, though, was that for all that musical background, you really saw yourself early on as growing up to be a visual artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a kid, I loved to paint, and I spent a lot of time pushing brushes and colors around pages. And I think even especially when I moved to the Kansas City area, and I was so inspired by the sunsets all night, you know, all throughout the year, and I painted a lot of skyscapes and a lot of nature things, and but then puberty happened, and I realized that having a social life means that you're more cool, or at least that's what I perceived at the time, and I grew into my extroverted self, and music is never lives alone. It always invites in, you know. Or so painting was a lot of time, hours and hours by myself, and I preferred to be sharing and laughing and making music with other people. So I traded the paintbrush for the guitar, and at around 13 years old.
First time you sang, you were 12, stood up in church, mm-hmm. and it felt right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got pulled out of the choir. They were like, "You take the solos." I was like, "Okay." And there was an event that happened at my church, and there was, I guess, it was a series of the same performance, something that came in from Branson, and I was the pre-show for all 7 of those, and so that was kind of my first concert experience. Yeah.
So after that, around the age of 13, piano,
mm-hmm.
followed quickly by guitar,
mm-hmm.
and eventually we get here.
Yeah, I started playing the harp at 20 years old. And I just loved it, and I felt that I really wanted to find a harpist that could play for me, and I couldn't find that person who was the perfect fit. So I decided to just play it myself and rent a harp from a Lenexa studio here in Kansas City, and learned from YouTube for the first year, and then I moved to Scotland and I took lessons when I was there.
Very cool. We'd love to hear some more music if we could.
Yeah. This is Poseidon. Poseidon, you and your trident have been awful nice to me lately. You have a kingdom and a wife and a baby, but you make time every night. I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what it is. You're just an ordinary man. Can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what it is, but I don't miss Ireland. I can't put my finger on it. 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 Oh, Poseidon, you are a riot. We've been laughing quite a lot lately. You bring me flowers and chocolates and champagne, and then you keep me up all night. I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what it is. It's not the way you say my name. Can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what it is. Let the reader understand. I can't put my finger on it. 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 Oh, won't you meet me in the seaweed, where the sand spins and the bubbles twirl? I'll kneel down before your crown and gaze upon your pearls. I can't put my finger on it. Oh, I can't put my finger on it, and I'm not trying to. I can't put my finger on it. No, 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 no. I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on it.
Calvin Arsenia live in the Bridge Studios again. How lovely is that? Just amazing stuff. Before you turned to the harp, you went to college for a while and studied music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I studied classical voice at Johnson County Community College with a private instructor, and she was incredible. She taught me so much about technique and about just the tradition and the power of the human voice. And in that season, I really studied and thought a lot about about that everybody has one, and and that it is like the ear is so drawn to hear and to communicate with other humans, and I also learned that classical music is one kind of style, But when you study technique and when you study every facet of the voice, like diction, or breath support, or tonality, when you harness and have complete command over each of these facets of singing, you can sing anything and sing it well and sing it for a long time. And I think that there's this misnomer, this myth or something, right, in the world that like gravelly voices are ones to be pined for, and yes, those people have beautiful talents and beautiful skills and beautiful, they have stories and their voice carries a story, but I think, you know, when we associate, or what we can associate sometimes as actual literal physical damage in the voice as something that we want, I feel like there's something wrong there, you know? So I just felt a lot of permission to kind of be derailing from the community that I was raised in. I mean, not in my church and not in my family. None of them were interested in classical singing, but it's something that I just was really passionate about. I mean, how can you as a singular vessel stand on stage before an entire symphony and out-sing them, you know? And I wanted to learn how to do that. And I don't know if I did yet, but that is something that's very impressive, no?
Yeah. So you said everybody's got a voice, but of course, no two voices they're like snowflakes,
Yeah.
and they're not created equally. Yours is 3.5 octaves.
On a regular day, yeah.
What about an irregular day?
I don't know. Sometimes I play around in a little higher, a little lower, but I don't count on those notes. I don't write them in. They don't have a script.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned the harp, and you mentioned the lessons too, and I actually came across a couple of different stories. One story is that you rented the harp, but because you rented the harp, you couldn't afford the harp lessons.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
But another story that I heard was that you rented the harp and you took drum lessons.
I also took drum lessons, yeah.
So, you know, I guess the question is, are harp lessons more expensive than drum lessons?
In that case, yes, they were. And I would say probably most cases. I was playing in different worship bands at the time, and I took drum lessons because I felt like I always had this disconnect between speaking to the percussionists that I was working with. And so I wanted to learn how to speak their language, and I took 3 lessons and quit. So I'm lucky enough to now have Simon play with me almost all of the time, and we don't speak in musical terms. He just plays what's right all the time.
Could have saved your money.
Right.
Yeah. So you talked about learning to play, at least for the first year, on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You've also talked about not playing conventionally. Is that a part of that?
For sure. I took YouTube lessons or like just watch tutorials to find out what the proper technique was. And then I just, I had already learned how to play guitar, and I had already been through the process of learning to play the piano to a certain extent. And I knew that there was going to be this awkward learning curve that I wasn't going to be good for a little while, that I was going to embarrass myself many, many times before I was at a point where I was comfortable. And I just bit the bullet early on. And I said, this is, I mean, I am stepping into a place of vulnerability. I hope that people understand that I am growing and learning something, but you don't get to 10,000 hours without starting with the first one. And so I just pulled up my bootstraps and dove in. And I took it to, the first harps that I had, I took it to as many different jam sessions and places that I could, just because, again, you have to put the hours in. You have to put the hours in to be good at anything that you want to be good at. And so that was how I managed that situation.
Yeah. So when you went to Edinburgh, you went with a guitar. And you were pining for your lost love almost immediately.
Immediately, yes.
And rented a harp.
Uh-huh.
And then you mentioned taking lessons over there. Now, did you have 1 or 2 instructors over there?
I had 1 instructor. I met her on their equivalent of Craigslist. Turns out that she was the Scottish, or the harpist for the Scottish Chamber Orchestra, and I was her only student at the time. And so I call that serendipity, if nothing else, right? And it was about 2 weeks, and I was like, I just felt like a part of me was severed, and kind of just surrendered to my love affair to this instrument.
So after you had all that self-training, and then you start teaching with somebody who's like accomplished in proper in quotes, proper form and technique. How was it easy? Was it hard?
I'm gonna say that it was very hard.
For her, for you, for both?
Just me. She is an excellent teacher and an amazing harpist. And I mean, I learned visually quite well. And so even just for her to demonstrate different motions or different hand positions or different kind of concepts was all of kind of what I needed to see her hands work up close and to ask questions while that was happening. And then to be able to have her watch and do the same, it was really lovely. And honestly, she didn't have so much to edit about what I was already doing, but she did give me a lot to do other things, and kind of challenged me to expand in different ways. And I'm really grateful for that experience.
You actually started a festival in Austria for people who play harp, and with the intent of forming a festival where, there's no judgment. You could come in and be creative about the way you played.
Yeah, it's called the Outlier Harpist Festival, and a friend of mine who is Paris-based by the name of Sabina James, and I met online. There's a very small and tight-knit harp community online, and we connect and talk, and we felt both of us started as adult learners, and we felt that there was definitely a gap in the market about the perception of harp and it's like prestige or something. I mean, it's very expensive. There's lots of strings. It's heavy and awkward and never stays in tune. So there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to play this instrument. But most people that do, because of what it is, start in a wealthy situation at a very young age. And you learn what you're taught. And everyone has the same kind of repertoire, or the majority of people know the same repertoire, know the same language, and a lot of festivals that are out there are geared towards playing that same repertoire over and over again and being judged about how you performed these same songs. And so Sabina and I really wanted to have a festival that not only celebrated the instrument, but also celebrated the people behind it. And so that's why it was called the Harpist Festival, the Outlier Harpist Festival, to celebrate the people behind the instrument and all of the creativity and the full glory of those people that schlep these things around, and to have some fun with it.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Are you going to do it again?
I hope so.
All right. Calvin Arsenia is in our studios with a band, and maybe after the next song you can introduce everybody, but love to hear some more music if we could.
I take that toothy grin over just about any other thing. You can bet your bottom dollar that I've been looking for your ring. But what would your mom say? And how would your father feel without a crowd of witnesses? How will we know it was real? We can't alone, though wouldn't it be nice? I need a photograph for our kids to laugh. No, we can't alone. Consider those who came before us. They gave up their lives so that you and I could proudly hold each other tight. You know I love frosting, and I've got nothing to prove. My choice is always you. We can't elope. I could write out pages, pages of worn out pages, but what good would that do? If you'd just be patient, patient, darling, patient, I'm already vowed to you, to you. We can't love as simple as it be. Going to need if we can't flaunt a bit, we can't love. We can't love.
Calvin Arsenia live in the Bridge Studios. That was lovely.
Thanks.
You know, there is seemingly, well, in your world, more is often more.
Yeah, okay.
You don't seem to really have much limits on the top end. You've called yourself overly ambitious at
yeah.
times. But I think the thing that's so interesting about you is how you want to, and today is a perfect example. You want to come into this space, create something specifically for this room, for this audience, for this time of day, for any other factors that sort of come into your mind. And that's kind of daunting as we live in a world where people expect you to monetize things that you repeat endlessly, right?
Yeah. But you know what, though? Like, you know, I think about my legacy a lot. And I don't ever want to be fueled by money. I have often paid to play these kinds of shows. Because if it's the last time I ever get to touch this harp, then I want to be surrounded in flowers. And I want to sing in front of beautiful people, playing with beautiful musicians. And that's just how I live my life. And sometimes everything goes according to plan, very rarely. And often everything kind of goes a little bit chaotic, but at least in the chaos, there is a lot of skill in the people that I work with, and a lot of beauty in the people that I work with. And for me, spending time with those people is the most important thing.
So we live in a world where people show up and do the show, collect a paycheck, and move on. And a lot of people are endlessly entertained by what they do, right? I mean, it's like there are a lot of people who walk out of a lot of shows really happy, right? But with you, you want every single show to be a transformative experience. And again, it's sort of like just taking that and moving it up a level.
Yeah. There's a lot of conversation right now in the world, and probably has been for a long time, but the difference between an entertainer and an artist. One is not better than the other. They both require a lot of skill and work. But I think about what I do as more of something to facilitate those moments as a spiritual experience. Because I know that I've been in concerts that changed my life. That an hour and a half of music changed my life before. And I know that everyone in this room here and everyone listening has also had that same experience. And if I get to be a part of that moment for somebody else that changes their life forever, I want to make sure it's really good.
You know, it seems to also be just you being who you are.
Yeah.
I think it's always been a part of you. Your first gig 10 years ago, Starbucks. What did you do?
Gosh, it has been 10 years. It was on Good Friday, I believe. It was the Starbucks down the street from my house, and no, they did not usually have performers there. And no, they did not expect for me to do what I did. I put a band in the middle of the sitting area out in Olathe, the Starbucks. And for that show, I put together a band. And because this was the first time that I was going to be premiering my own personal songs, not Christian music that I had often performed or the classical music that I was also performing at the time. This was a batch of songs that I created that I wanted other singers and musicians to play with. And so I recorded an EP for the show, and some of which was recorded in a bathroom, in a shower, which is perfect, right? And you just never sound any better than that, right? So I recorded it in a shower with some friends out in Spring Hill, and then the show I painted images of some of the lyrics of each of the songs I was going to do in that night, and then I sewed those canvases onto topiary sculptures that I made out of fabric and wood inside of cement and pot, like a 2x4 and cement in a pot. And so those were the backdrop for the performance. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time. And so there's something, I don't know, there's something that I just like about spending a lot of time doing something before in preparation of a performance, because then I feel like I'm in it, and I've invested myself. And I don't like it. Doesn't feel nice to me to just show up and play.
I say this with love and reverence. It was a gig in a coffee shop.
Not when I was done with
coffee
it.
shop,
Not when I was done with it. No, we went up in that room, and it was beautiful.
You also sort of transform who you play with for seemingly every gig you do.
Simon is the only person that's been consistent in my life ever, and that's because I don't have to. He just knows, and he's good for that.
Would you like to introduce the rest of the people playing for us
Yeah,
today?
we've got Colleen and Carmen and Alyssa and Ezgi on violin, viola, and cello. And then J. Ashley Miller was featured vocalist on Headlights of the first track, and Simon Huntley on drums.
All right. I think it's really interesting that you put this much into live performance, because seemingly anymore live performance is the only way that musicians are making money. Mm-hmm. So, your craziness might not be so crazy.
Well, I grew up in a time that was, we are all as a planet and as a species experiencing different things with the internet for the first time. And when I was, 12, 13, 14, we saw something crazy happen with the downloading of music and the sharing of music in the digital format. And so the MP3 became a very cheap commodity. You could have somebody's whole discography in a matter of an hour, for less than the time it took for you to go to the record store and buy any of them for absolutely free over your dial-up connection. You can have any music you want. And it was terrifying, and it still kind of is. We're still dealing with that problem, or with that reality, maybe is a better way to put it. And how do we navigate this world as an art in an art form, and as an industry? And I personally really view that my value as an artist and as a musician, and what we can create here is about supply and demand. And I have had people, come to multiple shows of mine for years and tell me after a show that they've seen me so many times and it's never been the same. And I'm like, that's exactly it. It's a one-time performance that's going to be specially made for that room, for those people, for that experience, and I hope that it never loses its value. And in contrast, I've also been around musicians that I love dearly, and I respect their work, that play the same stuff every single time. And if you've seen them once, you've kind of seen them all the time. And sure, there is still value and still love there, but that's not what I want to do.
So if you picture in your mind what Calvin did, at that Starbucks, you can only imagine what he did at the Gem Theater for his Cantaloupe release party. That was as much art installation as it was a concert.
Yeah, it takes a village, man.
It sure did that. No, it's like as if you didn't do enough inside the theater when people were leaving after the show. They're the Marching Cobras. Mm-hmm. It was just one thing after another. And then you turn around and you did the New Year's Eve gig over at the Truman mm-hmm. with Making Movies, and you recast your songs much as you have today. I mean, these songs have been recast for this group of performers.
Yeah, no, I've been slaving away at my computer writing music for the string quartet, and they're doing such a good job But this is the first time I'm hearing it live. So
Wow, that's great. So the stuff at the Truman was sort of recast with more of a dance kind of beat because it's New Year's Eve.
right, you don't want me to show up with a banjo to like bring in the new year, like that's just like, no, we gotta have a deep beat. We gotta get people moving. So yeah. I came to Jay Ashley Miller, and he's one of the producers of Cantaloupe, who also specializes in electronic music, and I brought Simon. We got together, and I said we really need to make this a dance hall for the set. It's going to be awesome. It'll be super easy. We already have the songs written, and several weeks of hard work later, we basically have a new batch of songs. So. We're working on the recording for that, and it should be out soon. But we're keeping that on the hush hush. So look out on Instagram and my email list on my website, as well as Facebook. That's probably how we're gonna get that to you.
Are you keeping the name of the album under wraps?
No, I'll tell you what it is. We're calling it Honeydew.
Which goes so well with Cantaloupe, right? That's great. The thing, I'd heard that. And the only question I have is, how is dew spelled?
DEW.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
like the fruit.
Yeah. There you go. Well, there are other kinds of honeydews. We just came off a 3-day weekend, and believe me, there are a lot of us that had a few. So recasting those songs, you also have another project where you're recasting some of these songs in a completely other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we recorded. My label was kind enough to facilitate a dream of mine, which was to fly to LA and record with some seasoned professionals that I'd never met before. The cast of characters that were there are legends, and I am incredibly honored to have been able to have that experience. For them to be playing my songs. And so that will be coming out in September. It's called the LA Sessions. We already have it on vinyl and CD, and we are excited for you to have that.
All right. Sounds great. Calvin Arsenia live in our studios. We'd love to have another song if we could. Stains from your I'm sorry flowers, the love we made, hours and hours, what a big mistake. Hardly now do I ever think of you, but I'll forgive myself, 'cause there was no way of knowing until you showed me that there are worse things than lonely, and I won't hesitate to at least learn something from you. I've got cobblestones and castles and crowds to elbow through, corners, floors, and couches that I could curl up to. I deserve every hole in my shoe, but when I come back, I won't come back to you. All the friends we made, you can go ahead and keep them. I've got who I need, if for no better reason than that I won't fight you, babe. And there's more where they came from, and that photograph where we
holding me. Out on mountains and winds and meadows that splash around in endless light. Ferries, trains, and buses rock by me through the night. I deserve every hole in my shoe, but when I come back, I won't come back to you. I was living in a painting, high listening to punk rock on your laptop. Halfway out the door, there's no winners in war, only more pubs and pipes and postcards, lazy fog that billows through, houndstooth stripes and paisley, cheery eyes of silvery blue. I deserve every hole in my shoe, but when I come back, I won't come back to you. When I come back, I won't come back to you.
Calvin Arsenia live in our studios today here at the Bridge again. So lovely, thanks. You know, the new projects, Honeydew, LA Sessions, these all come from the wellspring of Cantaloupe.
Mm-hmm. Well, partially, yeah. LA Sessions also features songs from my previous record called Catastrophe that were reimagined with these amazing musicians as well.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about those sessions for Cantaloupe, because it seemed like it was like a labor of love. What, 4 different studios, and you know, you had parts coming in from Florida and also from Sweden.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
but the thing that really blows me away is you talk to people about albums and what they're going for, and they'll say, "Well, I was listening to the Beatles, or I was listening to Otis Redding, or I was listening to this." Or you went for autonomous sensory meridian response.
I think those are Ashley's words.
ASMR.
Oh yeah, that. For sure. Yes, for sure. But no, that does sound like something Ashley would say. Yes. This is a kind of feeling that has become very popular on YouTube as well. So if you see videos of people eating pickles into very sensitive microphones, you've heard of ASMR before.
And essentially, the idea behind this is that we can have sort of outsized, like, responses, physical responses to very small sounds and very small sensory
like
experiences.
if somebody whispers in your ear and then your skin crawls, like that. Yeah.
Tearing of paper. Just little simple things.
So on the album, every track has some kind of sound that is a texture that is not really meant to be heard, like unless you're paying attention. So there are the cicadas are pretty loud, but they're in Cantaloupe, you know, and the gravel and Tiptoe and Jay Ashley's I had him rub his beard in Toxic. And I don't know. There's little treasure trove of sounds on that record, and I also really wanted to make sure that there was never a verse or a chorus that sounded like a previous verse or chorus throughout the whole listening experience, and so that it was a constant flow of new the whole album through. And I know it's probably not the best thing, but I don't take criticism that well. And one of we were speaking to some industry professionals while we were in LA recording the LA sessions, and this is before I started recording Cantaloupe, but I had some of the songs already, and and they listened to my previous record, Catastrophe, and I was showing them pictures of the shows and telling them about what I want to do with performance and what I'm doing with performance and how the people are responding. And they said, well, when we listen to your record, we don't really hear that. We don't hear the glitter and the roses. We would love to come to your show though. And so I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So I came back to Simon and Ashley, and I was like, I want to make an album that sounds like Glitter and Roses, and this is what we came up with.
That's great. You also have sort of grown. I don't think you have it. Like, you have nothing against diction, and you have nothing against pitch. But what you're really going for is the emotion of the moment. And if those things fall by the wayside, if language falls by the wayside, you're a happy man as long as you've communicated what you've said at the communicator.
As long as the soul moves, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen so many musicians who are technically awful move my soul because of their honesty. And sometimes people might use their technique in place of honesty. And that's when they become at odds with each other. And there was a time in my life where I did that, and that era of my life is over.
As long as I've got you here, we just got the new EP from Quixotic, and it's got your footprint all over it.
Yeah.
So the Goddess EP, 5 tracks, are all lovely. How did that come about?
I've been performing with Quixotic for several years now, and I think, Quixotic has absolutely been one of the more powerful influences in my life artistically, because working with them has given me all kinds of permission to not be afraid to be perceived as being otherworldly or something. That's something that they have going for them. And so to be able to perform with them in costume and makeup and play the harp and sing is such a delight, and I love doing that. And so over the years I've written a couple songs for them, and I've performed a lot with them. And so as a way to kind of say thank you, or to kind of memorialize that relationship in the season for now, we put together the Goddess EP. And the song Goddess was a song that I wrote, inspired by one of their aerialists in particular. And I thought so much about what is it that makes us have a visceral experience of seeing an aerial performer in the air. And the thing is that they seem like above humanity. They seem like they are outside of humanity. But in reality, they're so human and so incredibly human. And so it's like we celebrate our ability to be even more than what we are in the body of somebody else when we're watching them. That's why we applaud. Like we love seeing a human do that, and because maybe it means that we are a little bit more than we assumed that we were. We stretch the bounds of what it means to be human when we see and when we celebrate these things, right? So Goddess being that, even me living in a male body, being able to celebrate the goddess in all of us because I'm human like she is human, and that's what kind of what I wanted to encapsulate in that EP.
It's lovely work. We get into these sessions, and I get into the conversation, I get into the music. I hope I've counted correctly. We have one more song?
Yeah.
Okay. We'd love to hear it. Calvin Arsenia live in our studios today at the Bridge.
Baby, can't you see I'm calling? A guy like you should wear a warning. You're dangerous, I'm falling. There's no escape, I can't wait. I need a hit, baby, give me it. You're dangerous, and I'm loving it. Too high, can't come down. You got my head spinning around and around. Do you feel me now? Oh, the taste of your lips, I'm alright. Your toxic arms ripping under her, the taste of your poison paradise. I'm addicted to you, but you know that you're toxic. It's getting late to give you up. I took a sip from my devil's cup, and slowly it's taking over me. It's taking over me. You're taking over me. Too high, I can't come down. It's in the air and it's on around. And do you feel me now? Oh, the taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. Oh, your toxic arms lipping under her, the taste of your poison paradise. I'm addicted to you, but you know that you're toxic. Intoxicate me now with your loving now. I think I'm ready now. I think I'm ready now. Intoxicate me now with your loving now. I think I'm ready. Oh, I think I'm ready. Oh.
Wow. Wow. Thanks so much for this. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, we say this quite a bit, but you coming in here, all of you coming in here today is a total gift, and we appreciate it more than words. You sharing your art matters so much to all of us, and so thank you.
Thank you.
Calvin Arsenia and company live on the bridge.